morning, and I'm Suresh, and welcome to what we call a series of domainer shows coming up. And the plan is to have different domainers who are invested in .ins to come in every other week, and we'll have interviews and see how they got started in the business and talk to them about themselves and what they see as the future for .ins. The reason we wanted to do this in terms of bring you information about .in at this time is I think we are at an inflection point in India's economy. And think about India as a country which is going to have the largest population in about 5 to 10 years, a very young population of under 25 years. At least 500 million people are at 25 years or under. And you talk about in the last quarter, India overtook the US as the second largest online population. So that's about 300 million plus online population in India. And that is expected to grow. And also the 4G speeds that are being rolled out in the coming years, that should help further. The other factors are English it's the largest English speaking country in the world. So you have English as a business language of business, and the other aspects being making in India. For example, the automotive manufacturing in India is currently, I think, about 2 million vehicles a year, and you can almost predict that's going to grow to 5 and to 10 million in the next 10 years, and that's not a very difficult prediction, in my opinion. Having said that, so what we plan to do is to bring in different domainers, and let's talk about IN domains. Our first guest is Dean Chandler. Dean is from Ottawa, Canada, and he's the founder and CEO of Treadall Incorporated. And let's talk to Dean. And so tune in. Good morning, everybody. We have Dean Chandler here today to our first guest for the IN Domainer series. Good morning,
Woohoo!
Dean. Welcome. Yeah.
Good morning.
Dean's out in Ottawa, Canada. So, Dean, tell us something about yourself and where you are and what you do and how you got started with this domain craze.
Yeah, well, I'm here in Ontario, Canada. Obviously, a likely choice for someone to invest in Indian domain names. I'm clearly not Indian, but I could recognize the value in India and the fact that names were so undervalued compared to other domain extensions. It didn't seem anyone was investing in them, and I couldn't understand why. So that's how I got into it. But a little bit of history on me. I went to school for engineering and business, and when I got out of it, I didn't really like engineering that much.
You went into materials engineering, of
Yeah,
all things.
materials engineering.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
funny. We have something in common there too.
I know it's crazy. Most people don't even know what a materials engineer is,
Right.
but yet here we are. I guess something about us gets us into domaining. I don't know.
Right.
But
Yeah, sorry to break you up there. Yeah, so you were in school and then,
yeah, I did a couple engineering jobs, but I always wanted to have my own business. So I thought the best way to do that on the least amount of money would be to learn how to make websites and how to market websites. So I taught myself that in my free time. And I had a friend who was running a business called Sports Systems Canada, and it was just himself operating out of his basement, his parents' basement, as a matter of fact. And I came on there, I built him a website, and that was 2004. And then by 2010, it's a multi-million dollar a year business with
uh,
20 employees.
mhm,
And most of that was online driven.
right.
And from there, I always wanted to start my own business, so I started Treadall, specialty flooring. With the sports systems, we kind of drew the line
Mhm.
at everything above the floor. So I decided to take on flooring, and rubber gym flooring is where I started. And I'm working from home right now, and it's $1 million a year business, and it funds my domain ventures.
Fantastic. Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
it's a
days.
great story for somebody who is listening to a small business person or somebody who's trying to get into a small business and listen to what you've done.
Domainers that want to develop a name. I mean, there's so much opportunity with these names, and I didn't know anything about the industry when I started. Really, I just kind of fake it till I make it, sort of thing.
Yeah, that old saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how I did it.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who's a small operator in India or anywhere else that from based on your story, what would your suggestion be? How they get started or in terms of IN domain names and if they want to create a business on top of the domain name.
I mean, if you want to create a good business, the cheapest way, invest in a solid domain name and invest in a decent website and market it. I mean, if you want to have bricks and mortar, it's going to cost you a lot more than a decent domain name, and your reach is so small. It's
Right.
you're limited by your local area really,
Hmm.
and however much you want to spend on ads. So, develop a website and spend the money on, make sure it's SEO friendly, and just spend the money on marketing it. And it really isn't that much. It's the cheapest way to build a business. And you can look like a big company and be operating out of your basement, like
Right.
I am here. So,
Well, as long as you deliver the goods.
exactly. Yep.
That's the whole point, right? Your customer's ordering something and you deliver it on
Yep.
price. So that's really the thing. Now, when did you actually realize about domain names? And I know you're in Canada, in Ottawa, the capital of Canada. So in Canada has its own country code as .ca, and we are always surrounded by .coms. So, but how did you get started with domain names and when was that the first year when you said, yeah, this is something I need to do?
I've got a little bit of ADD going on, so I always have to
Oh,
keep
we all
myself
do.
interested in different projects.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of the stock market earlier, and I was just looking at different things, and domains caught my eye. It was probably around 2011 or so, 2010, and I kind of dabbled in .com, and I've got quite a few .ca.
Hmm.
And it was around the middle of 2013 that I was checking out the .in and noticed just how cheap they were, and that that people for
Right.
some
In the
reason
secondary
didn't seem
market.
to be
Yeah.
investing in them and didn't seem to value them.
Yeah.
So it's blatantly obvious, the size of India, the potential of India,
Hmm.
all the people, like a lot of things being outsourced, a lot of services being outsourced to India.
Right.
So it just seemed to be a great potential. So I went in all
Now,
the way, all in.
yeah, I know. I was going to tell the people who are listening that Dean is one of the largest holders of Indian domain names that I know
Yes,
of. So
greatest guy around from Canada, and yeah,
I
and
mean, I think that's amazing, Dean, that you've taken the plunge and totally all in, and it's a great piece of information for those who are listening. Uh, Now, I know you said .ca, the way things change in Canada, because .ca and .com were introduced about the same time, or maybe .ca came in a little later. But I think now most businesses in Canada use .ca, don't they?
yes, and an interesting thing about that kind of parallels what's going on in India a little bit. First off, Canada, the population is about 33 million. So it's
Hmm.
1/10 of the
Right. That's
US.
that's a population in Mumbai.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
It's miniature. That's all of Canada. It's a huge geographical area.
Yeah.
But the way they originally started was they had extensions for each province. So province like the states in India. So they'd have .on.ca for Ontario. That's our
Hmm.
biggest province. And eventually now you won't find a .on.ca or any of those others. Now it's all .ca.
.ca. Yeah.
Everything sort of transitioned to that. It's very rare, unless it's a government site, that you'll see the .on.ca.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I do own quite a few .co.ins.
Mm-hmm.
India is obviously a different story. There's a
Right.
lot more room for
Oh
both,
yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
and then the other point that I noticed, being in Canada, being such a close neighbor to the US, when people are looking for goods, including myself, you want to find a company that's located in Canada because you don't want to deal with the customs and the extra fees of shipping and all that
Right.
sort of thing. So when I'm looking for a company, like I'd much rather find clothing.ca versus clothing.com. I would assume the .ca obviously is a Canadian company.
Mm-hmm.
In the .com, I mean, when I think .com, I think US myself. Now it might be a different story in India.
Yeah.
Um, but that's what I think. And obviously, if you see clothing.com, you don't really know where it is. But if you see clothing.in, you
So
feel like you found the right place.
it's a very good point, Dean. I mean, it's just there's this confusion, I think, in the Indian companies that are looking at both IN and .com. So that's a great point. And when they're looking for a domain name, is to say, hey, you know what? .in means India, and guess what? The whole world is trying to look at India right now
Yeah,
to have a business in India. So if you're already in India and you don't own the .in keywords for your business, then I think you're missing the boat.
for sure. And it depends what you want to do. I mean, in most cases, you'd want to own both, I would think. If you're a
Right. Sure.
software company looking to build a generic CRM applicable to the world,
Hmm.
you're going to want the .com. I'd want the .in as well,
Hmm.
but you'd want the .com. If you're, selling a good locally, you're definitely going to want the IN.
Right.
And in some cases, if I was, in special cases like, say, SEO work or things that are commonly outsourced from the US, I would rather, in these cases, have a .in versus a .com, because a lot of US companies or global companies that are looking to save money because, the labor rates and things are cheaper in India,
Hmm.
they want to find someone in India that's
Right.
good doing it. So in that case, I'd rather have the .in versus the .com. In
Yeah,
some
I
cases.
say remove the confusion. Why confuse the customer? You know?
Yeah, exactly.
If you have a .in, people know you're in India,
Yeah.
and you know, especially when I look at all these new GTLDs,
Oh
the
yeah,
other extensions that you know, I mean, they're all niche. You know, they all have the applications, maybe. But so anyway, that's
I'm not totally against them, but it's a
right.
whole branding issue because
Yeah,
I mean, how long does it take to educate people on .in and all the main TLDs?
right.
Now it's like, if you're picking a GTLD, sometimes they can work great, but
Mhm.
it's really a branding issue. You got to hammer it into everyone and pay for
That's
the
right.
advertising to let them know that it's, dot cab. I had a company oneway.cab approach me for onewaycab.in,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't know they existed.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't know they existed when I purchased it. I mean, it is a generic term, but the thing is, they're going to lose probably a lot of business if they create that brand to my domain name.
Yeah, yeah. People are going to naturally search .ins.
Yeah. Oh, who
So
do
or
you use?
type
I
it.
use One Way Cab. Oh, let me look them up. OneWayCab.in. They're not going to look up OneWay.cab unless they really know the company.
Right. So yeah, let's get back to your portfolio, Dean. And I know,
Sorry about the phone here.
yeah, hey, it just shows that customers are looking for you.
There we go.
You know,
Phone's
so
dead.
yeah. So I know you have a fairly large portfolio, and do you have? I know the breakdowns in your portfolio. When most of us domainers look at, say, we have keywords that are related to products and services. Then we have those number domains. So what's your breakdown and what are your preferences?
I like just about everything.
Yeah, I know. I think with your portfolio, probably you do. Yeah.
I I like uh, obviously the short domains. I've got a lot of like three-letter .ins. I've got 900 of those and about 450 .co.ins. I've got about 183 three number
Mm.
.ins and about 300 four number .ins. So all those short ones. When I look at my list, I've got about just over 7,500 Indian domains, and 4,000 of those are four characters or less,
Oh, wow. Okay.
which is
Yeah.
yeah, a big amount. And then the other thing is, just product names, and I like to try and pick names where I could create a business around the product.
Right.
If it's greenshirts.in,
Hmm.
I mean, are you really going to create a business that only sells green shirts? There could be, 100,000 searches for that term,
Right.
but, it's not really useful as a business. Um, so I try and pick names like that. Um,
Something that makes sense and is searched quite a bit, and
yeah,
it's
search
a
quick.
real product
Yeah,
online. And
or
yeah,
service.
yeah. And I think those who are listening and who are trying to understand what keywords to buy, there are many resources out there, and all you have to do is look at the history. This is where I think you can look at .coms and say, okay, how does this translate into .in? Large corporations, they've already bought up many of the .com keywords. You know, so the large corporations with many brands, so they already own those keywords. So the chances of an Indian company trying to get those keywords in .com is almost next to impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 15 years late, so almost 20 years late. So, so what's some of your best or your favorite INs? And that's a tough one
That is a tough one
in
because
your
I got a lot.
portfolio. Trying to pick
Uh,
about five to
yeah, right
ten out of the
here. I got a list here.
like trying to tell which
MMA, I mean, I'm a fan of the
MMA,
UFC.
right? Yeah,
I don't know how big that is in India
mixed
right now.
martial arts, huh?
Big over here, yeah. Mixed martial arts. Mecca.in,
Mecca.
Tex, Near Me. I know Near sold for a lot of money there not long ago.
You
Uh,
said
um,
text.in?
Tex, yeah, Techs.
Okay, yeah,
Uh,
that's a really nice word right there.
that's great for outsourcing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then sort of product type names. I've got like men's watches.in. I've got wedding photographers.in. I mean, I look at these names and like, if I'm an Indian company, I would rather have weddingphotographers.in than weddingphotographers.com. It
It's local,
really, it's a
local
huge
business.
market in India,
Yeah,
and if you're focusing on India, which would make sense to you with a name like that, I would really prefer the .in over the .com.
yeah, makes sense. I think for that business, I'm not going to sit in Chennai and call somebody in Chicago for a wedding photography.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I want somebody in Chennai.
Exactly.
So within India, right? Makes sense.
Yeah. And then even like some longer names like commercial real estate, I mean, that's a three-word one, but I mean, it's extremely targeted. It's exactly what it is, and it's a huge market. Um, Things I've got evening gowns. That's very specific, but you can definitely create a site on that. There's 22,000 searches for that a month.
Hmm.
Um, and then things like geneticengineering.in, angelinvesting.in. I've got some where, they're kind of brandable ones like loanbazaar.in or mobileoffers.in. I've got a few good .co.ins as well for keywords, but that's
Yeah,
just a few
yeah. I mean,
examples.
I think like you said, the number of keywords, the premium ones, they'll be valuable in COIN as well. You know, a lot of them because there'll be so many companies trying to bid and trying to find those keywords for their business. So you know, yeah, I mean, I think you kind of uh, try to cover a lot of the product areas and services. That makes sense. Particularly we all know how difficult it is to create a website. Well, it's easy to create a website, let's put it that way, and then it's tougher to get people to come to your website. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's the tough one because a lot of people don't understand that part.
yeah,
That's where the domain names come in. Is trying to start off with some kind of a very brandable domain name. It's very difficult to get somebody to understand that your brand.
yeah, yeah, for
So
sure.
the other route is the generic keywords. Like I think you said, exact matching keywords. Um,
Yeah, I've got a lot of them. I mean, pretty much if you name a topic, I've got a name for it. Pretty much I've got a lot of coverage.
So what? Now I guess I'm jumping backwards a little bit. What exactly got you into .in, Dean? I know you said it's because, but was there any other influence? Did you visit India? You run into Indians
I've
out in Ottawa?
never been to India. I've got a couple old Indian friends from university, but I don't keep in touch with them. I have
Okay.
no connection whatsoever, other than the glaringly obvious fact that India is gigantic and it's growing quickly.
Yeah.
And really, I guess what turned me onto it was searching for probably what turned me onto it was searching for a company to outsource to for SEO marketing and
Okay.
website marketing. And I guess that's what got the ball rolling in my head that, hey, it's great to have good domain names for this. And then I got into it. I found Inforum, and yeah, just saw that, it's really not untapped.
Yeah. What are some of the resources you use, for example, for IN or any domain names generally?
Wow, this is great timing. My screen just went off entirely. But
Oh,
anyway, I can keep going. I
sorry,
talked to
Dave.
a blank screen.
Uh-oh. Okay.
If
Yeah,
you
I
hear me,
still can see you
can you
fine.
see?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, the sound's
Uh,
pretty clear. Yeah.
good, good.
So
Um, so some of the resources,
IN forum, yeah,
IN Forum,
yeah.
there's WhatsApp groups, Name Pros, I've done some drop catching for sure. It's extremely competitive now,
Hmm.
difficult. But yeah, mainly that's about it in terms of getting my names.
Do you go to conferences or do you have any plans to?
Haven't been to any conferences yet. Um, I definitely have plans to,
Okay, yeah.
uh, but I've got two little ones that keep me pretty busy. But
Future domainers.
yes, they are future domainers for sure,
Yeah, get them out to conferences, Dean.
whether they like it or not, I guess.
Yeah, I know. Uh, Getting back to valuations of domain names,
Yeah,
uh, I know when we talk about names like, the obviously great names like cars.com, now where would you put cars.in? I don't own cars.in, but I don't think you do either. But I just picked that name and cars.ca probably has a value, but we know cars.com probably would sell in many millions of dollars.
yeah.
And so if you base that, and what would you say a market price for cars.in, where today India makes about 2 million vehicles, so roughly, and think about China. China makes about 30 million vehicles, and China was a lot behind the United States about 15 years ago, and North America. North America is about 17 million vehicles. So if you look at the trajectory, and I'm looking at the trajectory, and I say India is going to be in the 10 million or 15 million in about 10 years. Its
Sure.
potential, because just the sheer number of people, number of market people who want to buy cars and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, it's all about what the
Clearly,
demand
infrastructure is to
is.
catch up. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough with a super premium name like that.
Hmm.
But obviously the car market is not as developed in India as it is in other countries. But
Right.
I mean, you know, car makers are huge and they are worth millions of dollars. So if I'm a car maker, like, and I can see farther ahead than 2 years, I would easily spend $1 million on a name like that.
Yeah.
Easily.
I mean,
I mean, it's a no-brainer to me, but maybe I'm a little biased. I don't know. But
no, I think you're on track. It's
and,
just
I
that's a
thought
super
much
premium
names
name.
myself.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess I took that example just to show people, you know, when you're valuing these domain names, you have to sort of work from the market size and the potential market,
yeah,
and then look at competitors in the market, look at the players in the market, look at how many people who want to compete and bid on your domain name, and then think about alternatives to the name. And usually the super premium ones, they stand by themselves. So,
I as a as kind of a baseline or a guide, I do use the Rosner equation. I don't know if
okay.
you're familiar with that one. That's Andrew Rosner from Media Options there, I guess, came up with that, where you take the number of searches per month times the cost per click,
Right. Okay.
a keyword, and then multiply that by 12 months, and then multiply that by the percentage of people that would click you if you were in the first position. So it's like 30%. It's kind of, I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of
I mean,
arguments around that, but
right.
typically will give you a good starting point,
Yeah.
to look at for names.
That's true. That's not a bad equation. I mean, it's a good overall strategy. And I think the if I remember right, the cost per click in India for typical keywords is about 70% less than in the US.
It
And
really varies, but I don't know how,
I
I
mean
don't know
that's just a
how accurate um,
yeah.
the Google tools are anymore. I don't know how much to trust them, but
Hmm.
you just got to get an idea for the demand and the size of the industry, and I just try and put myself in the shoes of the business owner to see how much they'd benefit.
Right. Right. So, yeah, I mean that's a good discussion. It's always something we talk about, and it's going to be a constant topic because as things change. So I think so. The next step, I think, what would you be things on your plate, Dean, in terms of you? I know you have some other interests as well. I think were you interested? Were you doing something to do with luxury apartments and stuff? You want to say a little bit about that particular?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
um, this is actually an interesting opportunity. It is a .com name, but it really applies just to domaining in general. I own some keyword domains related to real estate, including luxuryapartmentsnyc.com and no fee apartmentsnyc.com. That sounds really long, but that's a very specific term with a lot of searches. Both those terms are extremely valuable. A cheap luxury apartment in New York City will run about $2 million
Hmm.
US.
Right.
The cost per square foot there, it's like $1,100 and up
Wow.
square foot.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's like 1,000 square feet. It's $1 million. Anyhow, I got approached by a couple of realtors in New York City who were interested in buying the name off me, and as they couldn't afford the price that I was asking for the luxury apartments domain, I suggested that they can make me a partner
Yeah.
in business.
Hmm.
And so as a result, now I'm a even partner with them, and we're working on creating a big portal there to try and get everyone who's searching online for luxury apartments, and then hook them up with realtors, and then take a percent of the commission. And as you can imagine, the percent of one commission off a $2 million sale, which would be a cheap luxury
Right.
apartment, is pretty significant.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, there is another
So
big company doing that out there, and it's a multi-million-dollar company, and so we're looking to take them on.
Cool. I mean, that's an interesting approach. When the company is not able to buy the domain name upfront, you can partner with them, and
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
and they can basically it's a long-term success for both sides.
Yeah, it's a long-term thing. I mean, there's no way I would have had access to anything like this, without being a domainer. And my two partners are great. You know, uh, they're big in the industry in New York, and it's a huge opportunity for me that, yeah, definitely wouldn't have had otherwise.
Cool. So, any predictions, Dean, for as we're coming into closing up the show, and any predictions for the .in and India based on your experience and what you see will happen in the next 5,
Yes,
10?
I get my crystal ball out
Oh,
here.
yeah. Psychic, right?
Yes. No, I think there's, a couple big factors, that's going to determine the growth of the domain market in India. I mean, one, what the government is doing and the growth rate of mobile users. I mean, it's clearly they're doing everything right in that respect.
Mm,
And the infrastructure is being developed very quickly. Um, Now, I mean, it reminds me of they were doing that in China uh, quite a few years back, and it obviously worked out pretty well for them lately.
sure.
Um, but yeah, I mean, once the online user base is there, then all the big companies are going to realize, that hey, we better step it up with our online marketing, and really, if Nixie can um, get the word out there and help educate business owners on the value of websites and domains and being online and marketing themselves online. Um, that's the more people are educated, the more growth we'll see in the market. And then the other factor is, if we can get a couple big sales as we start to get some big sales and regular sales rolling in, being
Right.
reported on the weekly sales charts.
Hmm.
And I think that's when we'll see the big domainers start to step in, the big .com domainers and such start to step in, and then they'll raise the values for everyone. It'll make the domains more liquid and have a much higher liquid value as well.
Yeah. Hey, all good points. I mean, I think Nixie, the organization that's running this, they've been doing a lot of social media campaign. You see a lot
It
more
have been, yeah,
of
yeah,
the images and things, advertising they're putting out. So that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, I know, like you said, I think having a good aftermarket, for .in domain names is extremely critical. And I think the work that many of us are doing, talking about .ins, we're trying to actively get involved now rather than sitting on the sidelines and, let somebody else talk about it. So,
yeah.
hey, Dean, so I hope you're planning your next trip to India.
My first trip to
My
India,
first trip
yes,
to India. Yeah.
yes, I definitely have to get out there. It
Yeah.
will be fairly soon, yes.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's only a matter of time. There's conferences to go to, and being such a large .in enthusiast and
I have to show
investor,
my face somewhere other than from behind this desk in my basement here. So
you should practically get an Indian citizenship soon.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
the government might make me and start paying taxes on all these. I don't know.
So, hey, Dean, appreciate being the guest here today, and
You
thank.
honored to be the first guest. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. It's awesome.
We will definitely catch up again, and when I make the second rounds of interviews, hopefully. And appreciate taking the time out of your business, and and talking to everybody about what you do, and so we get to put a face to the person,
Yes.
and hopefully, we'll see a great .in future. Thank you.
Yes, we will. I believe we will. Thank you very much.
All right, take care, Dean.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye.